Hey everyone, it's your girl Laura Williamson, and this is Bear Speak. Welcome back. We have another awesome guest today, and I'm going to introduce her. But before I introduce her, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Who am I? Well, I happen to be a Pilates instructor, a personal trainer, a health coach, a Reiki practitioner. So essentially, what I am is a professional cheerleader. And I'm happy to have you here today because, again, this is Bear Speak, and we are bringing information to you to help you. This show is for you. It's all about you, and I'm happy to do it. Welcome. I'm welcoming Janice Carte today from Tiny Spoon Chef.
Thank you so much, Laura.
And you know what? I'm just going to jump in. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell us everything. We want all the deets.
And just everything.
I mean, why not?
It's a casual question.
It's a casual question. Tell us everything.
Yeah. Well, professionally, I founded Tiny Spoon Chef, which is a personal chef company. We've been around since 2013, and we provide all kinds of custom meal solutions with amazing personal chefs around the country. So we're in 110 cities in 15 states now. So that's what we do professionally. That's what I do professionally.
Okay.
And personally, I think I'm a cheerleader too. So
yes, you are.
It's a fun kind of matchmaking that we get to do. We get to know all kinds of households all over the country, amazing chefs all over the country, and we get to set them up with happy relationships and hopefully improve lives on both sides. So chefs don't have great lives. Like most chefs don't really have great lives in general. It's too many hours. It's not enough quality of life, that kind of thing. So we like to think we're doing a lot better by the people that we get to meet.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I would think you're around great food, so you know what to eat, when to eat, and all the things. That's not the case.
Yeah. Well, think about any time that you really want to go out to eat. It's a time when you're glad not to be working.
Okay.
But they're always working.
Okay.
And to make that food get ready to be put on the plate, somebody started 12 hours before you even got there.
What? 12 hours?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I just assumed the food came.
Yeah, or like that lovely Christmas Eve dinner that people love to go out to have, or Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Those are not days when I really want to be working.
Okay.
So when you think about that, it's part of the way we celebrate, but they're not really celebrating being there.
Okay. You know what? It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That gives us insight because a lot of people do not know that. I would never know that if it weren't for you. But before we delve more into your business, what you do, and all the things, I always like to give people a little bit of insight sometimes, especially when I know people and I meet people. So I'm going to allow you to tell the story of how we actually met.
Who stalked who?
You started it.
Probably. Well, it was COVID.
It was.
It was COVID,
in all fairness.
and things were, I don't know. I mean, stressful, anxious. It was a weird
Difficult
time.
Yeah.
My business was actually doing okay, and I felt really guilty about that. I think at the beginning, and then I felt really aware that being a good member of community was important to me, and how could we kind of participate differently. And so once we knew that we were going to be okay, and we were doing all the safety protocols and kind of putting the right connections into place, I really reached out to a lot of people in the community to connect and say, how can we shine a light on other small businesses and other restaurants that were struggling, on just other people that we wanted to support. And so it was giving away a ton of meals with the local food pantries in the cities we were in. And it was, I reached out to you and I said, hey, could we do something fun together and do a giveaway? And maybe we could use our social media presence and tie in with what you're doing and get some people to understand what you do and why it's important. And so that's how we met. And I don't know, you didn't think it was crazy when I reached out. So
I totally didn't, because I was in that space. No, because I was new. I was new to opening my business, so this has been a while now. I was new to opening my business, so I was welcoming meeting other like-minded people, just other people in general. And I consider myself a shy person. You would think a shy person wouldn't necessarily be doing a podcast. However, yes, I consider myself a shy person, and I just thought it was incredibly kind. It was genuine. It was heartfelt, and you started with that. You started with, how can I help?
Yeah.
Literally.
And we wanted to pay people too. We paid for everything that
Yeah.
we did. We
You
paid
you
for
did.
services to give away,
You did.
and we paid for restaurant gift certificates, and we just sort of said, like, we're okay, and how can we support other people and kind of make a ripple that felt really true to who we are.
It's true.
And during that time too, we really expanded our efforts, which we still maintain, which is when our chefs have quieter weeks, they have to be hourly by the nature of what they do, but when they have quieter weeks, we connect them with charitable opportunities to show up in their local communities in all of these different states, and we'll pay them for their time.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people want to do better. They just don't know how to connect, or they feel like it can't work with their lives, and we make that really attainable for people.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was awesome. And it was a lot of fun because one could say you didn't know me well also, right?
Yeah.
But I went to your house. We were in your kitchen cooking.
That
we
was
were
the
doing
first
all
time.
kinds of things.
Laura,
Like-
that was the first time. That was
Like-
the first time I'd ever done anything like that either.
Really?
I'd ever done anything for social media cooking like that. And,
Okay.
And I think back now to how many, I don't know, like now it's like thousands of hours on social media, on
Yes.
live television, on recorded television that I've cooked.
It's true.
But that was the very first.
Was that
I really think so.
That was your first year?
Yeah, I know. And we planned it all out. We were cooking in my kitchen.
It was. I met the dog. I met your dog.
Yep.
The baby.
Yep.
You know. And I mean, again, it just worked.
Yeah.
We clicked, and you were so kind, and it was just, you can't say, I don't know, how can you say no to that? It's just, it's kindness. Like, it's, and believe it or not, people can sometimes be challenged with that, like, you're being kind, how come? But no, in this case, it felt right. We went with it, and we've known each other ever since. I like to think we've gotten much closer since then.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that I think what we do, this is what it's all about. But before I get all, boohoo and the tears, because I get all in my feelings. I do that, and even more so now. I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know what that is, but but anyway. So tell us, how long have you been a chef? How did you start?
Well, I started working in restaurants when I was 15. I don't know. Sometimes it's weird to call yourself a chef, like.
But you are. You're a
Yeah,
badass,
I guess.
You're a badass chef. I said it.
I didn't go to culinary school. That's not my training. I've just loved it my whole life. I started working as a personal chef. I guess it was probably 2012. I formed the business officially in 2013.
Okay.
But I've loved cooking my whole life, and more than that, I just love celebrating with food. And so whenever there was a gathering, I was like, oh, I'll make this, I'll make that. I worked for Barbara Lynch for a while, and I would make people's birthday cakes at Number 9 Park.
Okay.
And then Chef Lynch would pay me to make the staff birthday cakes. And, it was a big
Awesome.
staff at Number 9, and it was just constantly making this person's birthday cake. And that felt pretty fancy, she's really talented. And it kind of rolled from there. So I always joke that this business wanted me more than I wanted it, because I just thought this is a happy way to spend a few hours a week just cooking for people and taking care of them. But they kept telling friends who kept telling friends, and I'm also a helper, so I just kept saying yes. And then I thought, Jesus, what am I going to do with all of this? It's kind of a lot, and maybe I could just share it. Maybe this could be a happier way somebody else could live too.
So I also know you, not personally, but we have a mutual person in common, or persons, and we didn't find out until, I don't even know how we figured that out, because we didn't figure it out right away. It took us some time to figure out that we had Anna in common from Oleana.
Yep.
And that was because once upon a time, I used to go for dinners in Cambridge, which is amazing restaurant, amazing food, by the way. But at any rate, and then you told me, what was the story with Anna anyway at Oleana? There was a story there also. Again, we didn't know each other yet, but we had connection, and we didn't know we already had connection.
Yeah. So, and again, I think the power of the universe is such a powerful. The power of the universe is powerful. the power of the universe is something that I'm humbled by routinely. I believe that the universe wants us to win, and it's our obligation to keep refocused on the right things during challenging times. But I was actually sitting at the bar at Oleana years and years ago, and she was there, and she was running Expo at the restaurant, and I was there with a friend who was a chef, classically trained, and we just had this conversation about how she wanted to start a canning and preservation program. And, you know, she's a Middle Eastern chef and has traveled a lot through Turkey and Lebanon, and my grandmother taught me a lot of these things, and so we connected for that. It was supposed to be a shorter project, and my degree and background in graphic design and marketing, I said, oh, if we're going to make pickles and jams and stuff, we should have these kinds of jars, and I'll design some labels, and we'll kind of redo the whole thing. So she said, I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay. So I did that for several years, and she was creatively slowing down as her daughter was, you know, maybe like 6 at the time. I think she just graduated college, actually, which is hilarious. So she said, we're kind of creatively slowing down, and I just thought that's really uninteresting. I'm a growth person. That's what I did for her for several years. So that's when I started taking on work as a personal chef. So none of that was intentional. Had I not been kind of sitting at the bar that night and having that conversation, had I not been authentically me and said, you don't want to use ball canning jars, we want to do a little bit better, like, I'll just take on more. I mean, none of that would have happened. And when the personal chef thing started growing, it was exciting and also terrifying, and then moments of assurance and waffling and what are you doing, and a paycheck is really nice. It's really hard to not, know when things are going to come, and so it was always this back and forth. But she's such a powerhouse of a person, and is so credited for having brought Middle Eastern food here to the U.S., especially at such a time when, Middle Eastern food was not something that was easy to market here. So she marketed it as Eastern Mediterranean, which was such a smart move.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And again, I've eaten there. The food is amazing. But now let's fast forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Tiny Spoon Chef. Tell us about it.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
So how did you start? How did you start the business and the idea or the concept of Tiny Spoons? Because I love the Tiny Spoon. You told me the Tiny Spoon story.
Yeah.
Could you please share that with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I started working as a personal chef, just a couple inquiries had kind of come in to Oleana, and a couple inquiries had come in to me. And I had a friend who'd done a little bit of personal chef work, a couple friends who were transitioning to other parts of their job. So these opportunities kind of kept coming to me, and I said yes to a couple of them. And then people want to know what you're calling yourself. Okay. So a friend of mine, I said, well, is it weird if I just call it Tiny Spoon Chef? Because I've collected tiny spoons for I don't know, a decade or so, and not like the little state spoons, the little novelty, spoons. I would go to different countries and traveling and go to the flea markets and, go to the Brimfield Fair here and just truck through bins of discarded cutlery, which makes me sound like such a nerd, but it's very true.
No, it doesn't.
And so I have hundreds of them.
Right.
I mean, and then you name a business this, and over, the last 13 years, then I have easily like another 150 of them because people just keep giving them to you. So I named the business this, not really thinking much more than that, just I have an enamorment with them. But when you have a small spoon, it's a moment of laughter and reflection, and it's a connection to childhood, and you can't eat too fast. It's like comical and slow and savoring, and you make it a moment, and there's something that just feels special about that, and most of them are really different. I don't really have very many sets of them, so most of them are really different. So it's kind of a fun thing. And now it took me 8 years to have branded tiny spoons made to give away, which is
I have one.
Well, it was a huge missed opportunity. Like, how did I wait for 8 years? But and so now it becomes this playful thing where sometimes we'll do an event for like big football players, and we'll do desserts or things and give them a tiny spoon. And they just kind of look at it like,
what am I going to do with a little spoon?
Like,
but it's perfect.
Where's the real thing? Whatever. And they kind of like laugh and look at one another. And it's this little thing. And then they just kind of succumb to the delight of like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. This is so silly. Here we are all together.
Yeah.
And there's a shared feeling.
Yeah.
So I love that it's not fussy. It's not Epicurean this. It's not, there's so many fussy names out there.
Yeah.
Culinary, blah, blah, blah. It's just.
It's an experience, and
Yeah.
it brings forth an experience
And it
for the
should
person.
be like
Yes.
joyful and silly in a moment, and like, let's remember this and feel what it feels like. And that's what it is for me.
So tell me, who's your client? Who do you work with?
I'm surprised at how many different groups we work with.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought when I first started doing this work that it would have been all families.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I would have said to you. Oh, we're going to help a ton of families.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many families that we help who just
Okay.
two earner households, not wanting to sacrifice their professional life while having kids and that kind of hustle. But there are also a lot of like dual income, no kids that just want to kill it professionally while not compromising their health, because we all know that the way we invest in our bodies throughout our lives are going to reap the rewards or feel the difficulties for the rest of our lives. So a lot of people hire us to take care of their aging parents. It helps keep their relationship more balanced instead of critical and managing and babying and that kind of thing. We can come in and be a great friend and a resource and provide health and vibrancy. So that's definitely a big part of what we do as well. We're really getting into the pro athlete space a lot with Major League Baseball. We have a couple NFL players, and we're growing that relationship as well. So a couple people in pro basketball as well. So
Nice.
that's a growing field.
Awesome.
It's been really interesting.
What are some of the challenges with what it is that you do on a day-to-day at Tiny Spoon Chef?
Like personally, my role.
I'm going to say your role first, yes.
Yeah.
Let's start with you, because actually I want to focus on you a little bit more. And because I know when we met, the food, how healthful the food was and food options for people was very important, or has been important to you, right? Especially it's about, if I understood you correctly, it was about catering to the need of the client first and foremost. But you also, for you personally, you wanted them to have options that were healthful, that would help them stay on a path of their best healthful and wellness selves.
Yeah.
I recognize that, because you're a pretty healthy and fit person yourself, but you also live life to the fullest. Like, you don't take shortcuts. And I find that your balance, your ability to balance, or to try and balance that, works out really well, because as a personal trainer, what I recognize is people don't know how to balance or where to balance. They feel like, well, I eat too much of that, so I got to go lose weight, so I'm not going to be allowed to do this. Whereas I have recognized with you that you live life. Like, you go out, you spend time with people you care about, you take care of your staff, and it also, we see it with your employees, or at least I see it with your employees, and I see it in how you approach the food and the meals that you send out to people. So, long and the short of it, what are some of your challenges being a business person, a businesswoman, and what are some of the challenges you find in your business itself as a business? So I'm separating the two, business person and personal. And you tackle whichever one works for you. I know there are two big questions, I recognize, but.
Yeah. As a business person, I think I've really had to figure out how to support myself in the growth that we've had. So the first 7 or 8 years we were here, 7 years we were here exclusively in Boston. And so when I consider that, and consider that that means in less than 5 years, we've added 14 other states and, 100 different cities in those states. That's not a normal way people live their lives. And what does that actually look like for someone to do? It means that every year I get a promotion. If I was doing the same things that I was 7 years ago, 6, 5, 4, then we would be largely the same. So every year it's a consistent evolution of what things are now my responsibility, what things shouldn't be my responsibility, and how do I manage that, because if I really think about waking up and thinking about the livelihoods of 80 people and of their families and of their alignment with my decisions and my value system and my goals and my choices, man, I think there'd be days where that would be really hard to get out of bed.
Right.
Because there've been so many challenges in the last 5 years. So for me, I have a great therapist I work with every other week. I have a great business coach who I work with. I've worked with really consistently. I have another mentor that I work with weekly in the business and meditation space. And I think it's just an accepting that this is a life that I love, that I seem to have an acumen for, but the supporting of that, I come at really aggressively. And I've had depression off and on since I was young. And I just know that you don't wait until you feel like something's wrong.
Right.
You handle it.
Right.
So I also, it's funny because recently I was in a meeting with a couple of associates, and we were problem solving. And in this meeting, I'm sitting back and everybody's kind of having this challenge session. And the messaging that came afterward was really funny. They said, "You're always so calm. We're dealing with this issue, we're dealing with that issue." And recently we've had a lot of departures in the staff, and I've chosen to kind of part ways with people. And I realize how great I've become at mitigating fear. And I'm so proud of that, because COVID really tested that.
Right.
Everything was to be feared. It felt like during that time. And now I just feel like a total badass in that regard.
Oh, but you are.
Like there's absolutely nothing. There's nothing to fear. We're just going to plow through it. We've solved every problem we've ever had.
I love it.
It's a learned behavior. So
I love it.
yeah.
And some would even call it conditioning. I'm going to share
conditioning.
this. I'm going to share this with everyone, because when I was going back and forth with my, a lot of people don't know my history, and where I've been and where I've come from, and I've never really delved into it yet here. But what I will say is, before this, I did work at the Sports Club LA, which is also Equinox.
Yeah.
I've been in this industry over 21 years now.
Yeah.
Right? As a personal trainer, Pilates instructor, all the things which I mentioned in the beginning. However, I was hemming and hawing. I was going back and forth with the whole, I don't know if I'm going to leave. When am I going to leave? Should I leave? I don't know what to do, and the thing. And then you told me the rake story.
Can I tell the story?
You may tell us the break the rake story.
This is my meditation mentor who I talk with every week.
Tell the story.
Well, first of all, he has these amazing stories, and sometimes he'll be like, "Have you heard about the marker and the elephant? I always tell him like that he has the most arbitrary, like whatever. They're hilarious stories, but he said, "Have you heard about the guy and the rake?" And I said, "Oh, of course I haven't." And now I've shared this with so many people, and I love that it resonates with you because it's such a meaningful story. So the story is
actually, you know what? Before you tell a story, let's take a tiny break, because I don't want to miss anything here. So, okay, everyone, you want to hear the story. Hold on one moment. We'll be right back. All right, we're just going to take a tiny break.
Do you work hard? Do you play hard? And are you living well? The truth is, we're all figuring it out as we go. On Bear Speak, we have honest, relatable, and fun conversations with real people about life, growth, health, and becoming stronger.
Relational life therapy. You and I have talked a little bit about this. This is Terrence Real. Depending on your makeup, you're either in fight, flight, or fix.
Because you can be the hero of your own movie. Stay tuned and listen to inspiring people who found the strength to face their biggest fears and live their biggest dreams.
Okay, everyone, we are back. Okay, we're back with Janice Carte from Tiny Spoon Chef. Now, she's going to tell us the story about breaking the rake. All right, now, Janice, please share.
Okay, so this is an amazing man, Dr. William Jackson. His business is Skillful Means. I can't say enough about working with him, but he said the story of the guy and the rake. And he said this very poor man, and he lived in this small village, and the only possession he had was this rake.
Right.
And every day he would get up and he would tend to his very small plot of land. And he would greet the day by getting up and walking into the center of town. And he had this feeling he was so connected to the monks in the town who were walking in these beautiful golden robes and had their bowls of alms, and they were, collecting the tithings for the day. And he just felt so connected to them. And he would go back and he would get his rake and he would tend to his land. And he just felt this longing in his heart. He knew this wasn't his life. And so one day he went deep into the woods and he buried his rake and he went to the monastery and he surrendered his life and he said, I'm here to be a monk. And they took him in and he was in the practice of washing the floors and preparing the food and all these tasks. And he was so distracted and he just said, no, this isn't right. And he went back into the woods and he unburied his rake and he went back to his life of waking up and going into the town and seeing the monks and this whole thing. And this went on for years and years where he would bury his rake in the woods and go back. And he would stay sometimes for longer periods and shorter periods. And he would experience this brotherhood and he had this struggle. And one day after many, many years of this, he left the monastery. He went deep into the woods. He unburied his rake and he took it further and further into the woods than he'd ever gone. And he came to a river and he broke the rake, threw it into the river, and he went back to the monastery and he became a monk.
Love this story. Love that story.
And it means something different to everyone. And sometimes I tell this to people and they look at me and they're like, and I'm like, you can't fully choose it until you choose it. Like sometimes we just feel like we have to leave a toe in something else, a possibility of what he wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that was a conversation we had. It was like, you weren't ready
Yep.
to fully be in the next thing.
Right.
And when you fully choose something, your whole energy, your whole universe, you're in it.
You're completely in it. You're all in.
Yeah.
You're all in.
When you're going to leave yourself the rake in the woods, you're going to choose.
You give yourself the option to go back to
the
that rake.
temptation for that. When
Yep.
it's no longer there,
Yep.
when you don't have the option,
Yeah. You're right.
you're going to fully be present with what
Right.
you're
What's
present
right
to.
and exactly. Yeah. And for me, it was, like you said, it resonated. It was a great story for me. And I was still holding on because I'd been there for so long. But again, I don't want to make this about me because it's not about me. But I'm just sharing how your words were inspirational and how they actually helped me, because I look at you and think, you've come through a lot and you've done a lot. And I just think others like myself, and I mean, honestly, you are inspiration. And I think just knowing that there are other people who have been where I am and that have gotten to a certain point, but are still moving through. And like you said, for me, also you talking about fear, that resonates, because I feel like, there is some conditioning there, and that everything, I feel like in the end, it always comes back to fear. Like, okay, now I'm afraid. But the question is, what are you going to do with that fear? And what's your worst case scenario when that fear happens? And usually what we imagine in our heads, it's always worse than what actually happens.
Oh, yeah.
And then we work ourselves up. We put ourselves in this stressful position. I know, because I do it myself.
Yeah.
But that's one thing personally I'm also working on. So when you say, I have a therapist, I have a coach, in my mind, I think, I had to do all those same things too. And I know, I'm sure there are going to be people sitting out there who's like, oh, that's a lot. I don't have money for this. I don't have money for that. I get it. But you know what? You don't need a lot of money. It doesn't take much money to take 5 minutes for yourself and have a meditative moment. It doesn't take much to say, you know what, today I need to turn my phone off. I need to shut the news off so I don't hear anything negative. It doesn't always have to cost money to help yourself.
It does not. And I think the community of people, of other people who just know what you're up to and can support you and reach out and bounce. I think you're amazing at that, at reaching out and saying, how are you doing? Yeah. I know that this is, you're going through some, but just having other people that, it's such a blessing to be able to have a business coach and have people to talk to. But even in the sense of just thinking about meditating and how to get started with meditating, I remember talking to Dr. Jackson when I was first trying this. And the very first time I sat down, I just thought, I'll sit down for 20 minutes, which is an excruciating
It is. When
length
you don't do
of
it.
time. It's really
when
like,
you don't do it, it is. It's
that's
painful.
like 17 years.
Yeah,
it's forever, right?
It's yes.
And I sat on
It
my
can be
porch
painful.
and it was like there was a fly and the way the sun was on part of my legs, it was like everything was wrong. And then I look and it's like 2.5 minutes later, right? But even in that lesson, I remember talking to him and him saying, set an alarm every hour and sit for 1 minute and just focus on your breathing. Close your eyes. Don't think about anything else, but imagine what shape that breath is taking as it goes in your body and out of your body, and just think about it for 1 minute and then go back to your day. And there are so many easy ways to incorporate mindfulness and peace and let your nervous system reset, it costs absolutely nothing, and it's such an investment in yourself.
It's true.
Yeah.
I remember everyone, we're not trying to make this into a therapy session, but we got to talk about it here. So I remember I had one session with my therapist. I remember I sat down with her one day and I was in a moment. I was all rah, I'm upset about this and I'm upset about that. And she very calmly said to me, she says, so what is it about that that's upsetting you so much? What do you think that is? I don't know. And I'm all in and so she said, okay, so this is what we're going to do. Because she's one of these people who believes that everything is in parts.
Yeah.
So apparently that part of you is unhappy with this situation right now.
Yeah.
So maybe what we should do is, and she had me sit in a meditation. She said, let's just take a moment and we're just going to breathe. And we're going to have a conversation with that part of yourself. I was like, we're going to have a conversation with that part of myself.
You're like, this is some kind of a weird.
What are we talking about right now? We're going to have a conversation with that part.
Yeah.
So she's like, all right. So she put me in a room. She put me in a space. And she had me sit down facing that part of myself. She's like, imagine you're talking to that part of yourself. And I was like, okay, I'm going to imagine talking to this part of myself and be like, what's up? What's your problem? type of thing. But at any rate, so I did it. And I had this whole conversation with that part of myself. And I know there are people sitting out there like, what? And then I know there are people sitting out there like, yeah, I've done that. It works. And I had that conversation essentially with myself. That's really what who I was having the conversation with. And I had realized I tapped into something deeper that was resonating, that was sitting there that I didn't even realize was sitting there. It was an emotion. It was something that I was upset about, and I hadn't processed it yet. It came out in a worse way at that point because it was something that was already there that I had never really addressed. And then once I came out of that meditation, then we talked about it. She said, okay, so now let's talk about that. And I thought, wow, did I just work through that? Yeah. Like I had no idea that was there. And I also we talk about therapy, and you're not the first person, and I've had therapists here so far. Therapy is important. We have friends that we talk to about things that we can share and confide in. But sometimes we need someone who's not emotionally invested with us so they can really give us the grays, the black and white. No, it's good to have your friends, but sometimes you need someone to kind of be like, okay, so why'd you do that? What, like, did that work for you at the time? Was that...
I'm only laughing because how many times have you also had a conversation with someone you really love who, like, you get the sense that they're wanting to know what angle you want to hear back?
Yes, very often.
Right. I think about this as, dating or something. They're like, do we love him or do we hate him?
Yes.
Right. Like, what angle are we?
Where are we going?
Right. Like, are we cheering for this to work out or is he dead to us? Right. Like,
right.
And their advice is only going to be that good.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
But
sometimes you want that, right?
Right. But
it's
not a dispassionate evaluation of how you feel. It's like, do we love him or do we hate him? Okay. Like now I'm on board. I'm going to get there.
Yeah, that's right. Right. But that's a friend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes you need someone who's not invested emotionally.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Because you still want your friends though. You want them.
Yeah.
But
very true.
You need that balance.
Very
right?
true.
But so the point is like freely I talk about therapy now. I've been talking about it more because there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually, in fact, it's very helpful. And I feel like nowadays we're also or can be so very stressed, and we need coping mechanisms and skill. And I feel like with COVID, that brought out a lot of or brought things to the surface that was like, oh, I didn't know that was there. I probably should I work on that? I might need to work on that. That's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. But I mean,
very.
And
true.
what I also will ask you, because you and I, we worked out, we've trained together. Now you again are really good about taking care of yourself. Despite all the things that you do.
So I try. Sometimes not as well, but
but tell me now, what do you do? Okay, what do you do for yourself? How do you care for yourself? We got the mental health. We have that part, making time for yourself.
Yeah.
What other ways do you self-care?
Yeah. I think rituals are really important.
Okay, what kind of rituals are you speaking of?
You know, a latest thing for me is realizing that waking up my body includes good circulation.
Okay.
Just kind of moving everything in the morning, not starting my day with coffee,
Okay.
starting my day with really good hydration, thinking about, you know, having some collagen and creatine and having
Nice.
some, you know, like thinking
I
about
do
that kind of
that. I do all the
stuff.
things. Okay.
I'm into this like liquid multivitamin right now. My
Okay.
hairdresser's like, you got lots of little hairs growing in there. I'm like, thanks.
Yes.
Just like the little rituals. I just got engaged this weekend. which is very
Congratulations.
exciting.
I heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And he is, I don't know why it's infinitely cuter when he just does this, but he likes making tea at night. So we'll have a cup of tea before bed. And like there's something about just it warms you from the inside and it kind of slows you down. And I love that. Just those kinds of little rituals are also very nourishing for mind, body, and spirit, and kind of either gets you up or kind of slows you down and starts those little rituals. I also have rituals with my little dog. I have a little 3.5-pound dog, Noodle, and
Noodles.
we always get little snuggles in right before bed, and it's, you know, part of our little routine. So lots of vegetables. Lots
Okay.
of vegetables keep me feeling really good. I never really thought about being such a healthy eater, but people tell me that all the time who know me and my habits, and lots of kale, lots of salads, lots of good stuff like that. But I love, you know me, I love me some croissants. I bring people baked goods all the
I
time.
didn't know you were a croissant kind of girl. I didn't know that about
Oh,
you.
I do. I love it. Yeah, but you know.
They're fluffy and like air with butter. Their buttery
I
goodness
know.
is what they are.
But you know what I've learned too, though? That like all good things, one croissant is like delicious. If I ever think, wow, that was so good, I want another, my body hates it.
Oh.
Like
okay.
one once in a while is good. The second one, my body is like, you like kale.
Yeah. Your body tells you that? You like kale.
My body is like, you do not like that much of this.
Yeah.
you like a croissant like once in a while, and
Yeah.
like you'll enjoy that, and that feels okay. But
Are you sure your body's saying you like kale? Are you sure? Because I don't know. I mean, I like kale, but my body's not going to say go for second helpings on that kale.
my
But
body feels really good with kale. I don't know.
I had a really good kale. Okay, that's an
Kale, beans, like my body feels really good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I also like cheese, so there's that too. But I don't know, the rich stuff. Like I have a limit.
Okay.
I enjoy it, but my body's like, yeah, that's probably enough.
All right, so Janice, we're nearing to the end, and I'm kind of sad because I love spending time with you.
We're both energy people.
I think
we talk
so.
a lot about that. I feel like,
oh,
you
yeah.
know, when we're together. So.
Yeah, I think again, but you know, like equal energy exchange and all the things. All right, now, why is wellness even important to you? Where did that start? Why is that a big deal?
Yeah.
You know.
That's an interesting question. I think wellness has come more into focus since my father passed away. That was about 7 years ago.
All right.
But it's always been important. I remember talking to him years ago when I was, you know, when I'd started the business and everything. And I was trying to fit out exercising and stuff in with the hectic pace of everything. And he'd made some kind of comment about it. I said, oh, well, you know, like nobody wants like a really overweight chef or something like this. And he said, that's not true. Nobody cares about it. And at the time, I think he was referencing Mario Batali, you know, who's a really big guy.
Yes.
And I said, here's the thing. If you're going out to eat once a year for your anniversary and you're like, oh, I'm going to have the Alfredo pasta because, like, I never have that. I said, that's a different thing than if you're welcoming a chef into your home every day to take care of your spouse, your kids, your whatever. You want to know that that person is also committed to walking the walk and having a healthy lifestyle. And I'm also committed to just feeling good in my body. And my stepmother's mother passed away. I guess it was probably 10 or 11 years ago now. And I remember that my reaction to that was I wanted to run up a mountain. I wanted to feel all the things my body could do that her body was not well enough to do. And I think when I lost my dad, it was maybe even a little bit more of an extension of that. It was just like bodies can do hard things. It's conditioning. It's practice. And so last year I did the Pan Mass Challenge. I did 80-mile cycle to raise money for cancer research, and just taking on challenges like that. I think wellness is important. It's just a rhythm of our life. I think charity is important. It's a rhythm of our life. It's how we just kind of prioritize the things that make us whole, and part of that is the spiritual part of, just honoring. Like, I really feel my body is not who I am. It's a vessel. We get one vessel. I'm going to do right by it. I'm also going to enjoy the croissants.
Right. As you should, right?
Right.
Because balance, right?
Yeah, because
you talked about
because balance and nourishment is not necessarily, you know, what are the vitamins in this and how much fiber. Nourishment is a very rounded kind of word. But yeah, I want the vessel to be here. I want to feel good in it. I don't want to work towards a different level of freedom of time and then find I don't feel great.
Right.
To be able to move and stretch and.
Well, isn't that's part of freedom, right? Is your health.
Yeah.
You know, because if your health is in question, or if it is compromised or taken away from you, you realize how much you had or how much you lost, actually, because all of a sudden your perspective changes. It's like, oh, that money, if this money can't help me with this, I have money, but then what do I do with my health? How do I get that back?
Oh, for sure.
You know, what do I do then?
And at this age too, I'm 45 now. Just the wellness of knowing, the centeredness of knowing what belongs to me and what doesn't belong to me is, you know, sometimes people lament age and, you know, idolize youth, and I would never go back to any prior age. I don't regret any prior age, but the centeredness with which I can just sort of say, oh, wow, like there's a lot going on for you. Like that's your stuff. That's not mine. It's so separate, and that takes a long time to figure out and to see with any kind of acumen. So that's a different kind of wellness too.
Before we take off today, what advice would you give our listeners?
Yeah.
What advice?
I think a lot of people ask me about business advice because I've done some big things there. And the biggest thing I would say in that regard is that the universal hesitation that people have with business is centered around fear.
Right.
And once you do it, you realize how much wasted energy that fear is. And that I can say after speaking with people who've done really, really impressive things, that's a universal thing. And I think it's a big nugget that more people need to talk about is if you're scared that it's not going to work, that what if this, what if that, it's all the more reason to do it.
Yeah.
It's not actually not a limiting factor.
Yeah.
And also to be sure that what you really want, the life you really want to be living is what you're moving towards. So I think it's really easy to, like, we're sort of taught that money is the goal. But if you want a life that looks like more time in your garden or more time to travel, or there can be lots of different motivations, but people also have a tendency to move towards building a life in a certain classic trajectory where when you get there, you're going to have achieved something that actually doesn't look like a day-to-day that you want to live.
Janice, this is a different show. You realize that, don't you? What you're talking about right now. This is a whole other topic. This is for me, and this is wonderful advice, but for me, this is a topic with regards to abundance and looking at money as being the only currency.
Oh, yeah.
With regards to abundance, because abundance is about more than money. And I think, and then fear. Like, again, this is a completely different, a whole new topic that we could do a whole other show on. But I think, again, you've been a cheerleader for me, and I think you're phenomenal, and I'm so happy you spent time with us today.
Yeah.
If anyone wanted to reach out to you or get more information about what you provide and what you offer and your chefs and so on and so forth, how can one get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we're on the web at tinyspoonchef.com.
Okay.
We do a lot on Instagram at tinyspoonchef. And then I'm personally on LinkedIn, and so Janice, the last name is Carte, C-A-R-T-E. I love to connect with other business people. And we help people who are really taking on a lot professionally, personally, and just really, you can delegate your wellness to someone else. So would love to connect in any regard.
Janice, thank you so much for being with us today. Listeners, I'm here for you. I do this show for you. I do it for myself, I'll be honest, but I also do it for you. This is the way that I get to connect with you. This is my way of doing that. Thank you for being with us today. I'm so happy to have you. Please join us for other shows. I'm Laura Williamson. I'm your host. This is Bear Speak. Take care.